crazy.
Okay, so you mentioned your family's business, this auction gallery. Due to some nefariousness, the gallery wound up in some trouble. You wound up in some trouble. Tell us briefly what ended up happening.
So when I was working for the gallery with my parents, we used to sell antiques, and we used to sell things that were made out of ivory. And elephants are not endangered, but they're on the protected species list. And there were a couple of things that I did wrong that got me in a little bit of trouble with the government. I can't go into all the details, but everything is online. You can just Google my name, and like the whole sentencing brief is there. But basically, what happened was that I pled guilty to making a false statement on a customs form and a customs document. And so I had to do a little bit of jail time. I went to a federal prison, a prison camp. So it's like the so-called like Club Fed thing. When that happened though, and you can read this in the sentencing brief, I talked about like the crazy shit that happened to me when I was in Scientology. And I talked about all the gay stuff, and I talked about the abuse that I suffered, the mental and the physical, like getting punched and getting slapped when I was in the Sea Org, and being raised in a family in the shadow of a domineering father, and like all that other stuff. So I went to prison for about 8 months, but because I talked about Scientology in a negative fashion in open court to the judge, that made me obviously a declared suppressive person now. So now my parents won't talk to me. I'm declared, I'm persona non grata in Scientology. I'm evil. I'm shit. I'm terrible. I want to take down the world. I'm worse than Hitler in their eyes. Yeah. So none of my former Scientology friends will talk to me. My parents completely cut me off. It's a very weird situation. But yeah, no, I haven't talked to my mom, especially in like almost 2 years now.
Wow. So the church wasn't going to expel you for being accused or convicted of felonies, but saying anything negative about Scientology in court, that crossed the line.
That crossed the line. My battery on my computer is at 1%, and I forgot my stupid charger.
Let's just take a timeout right here, and I'll splice them together.
Awesome.
Okay, great. We're back, finishing up with Joey. Hey, Joey.
Hey, what's up? We're back.
You had briefly explained that you ended up serving 8 months at a federal prison. How did 4 years in the Sea Org compare to 8 months in federal prison?
Prison was a piece of cake compared to being in the Sea Org. You got better accommodations, to be honest with you. The food was a little bit, I mean, okay, it's prison, it sucks, but it's not, you're not in that crazy environment where you have to be working 24/7. You're not under constant pressure to do anything. You get free healthcare when you're in prison. You get 3 hot meals a day. I exercised 2 times a day when I was in prison. I lost 25 pounds. I got in really good shape. And everybody accepted me for being gay when I was in prison, whereas in the Sea Org, I was beaten for it. So it's a huge difference. And doing 8.5 months in prison versus 4 years in the Sea Org was a piece of cake. Easy.
That is incredible. So is this like, you know, a Folsom prison where you're going to get shanked in the yard, or what are we talking about?
No. This is sort of like, I haven't seen Orange is the New Black, but people have compared it to Orange is the New Black. It's a very relaxed environment. It's all non-violent criminals. It's like the so-called white collar club fed sort of prison, I guess is what it is. There's no perimeter fence around the prison. It's just sort of like for the people. When I was there, most of the prisoners that were there for white collar were doctors and pharmacists for committing Medicare fraud, chiropractors for, you know, sort of doing like some sort of a pharmacy fraud or insurance fraud thing. A couple of embezzlers were in there, financial crimes and stuff like that. And the other half of the population were nonviolent drug offenders. So nobody was dangerous. There were no fights that broke out. Everybody was super friendly. So it was not as stressful as some people imagine what prison is like.
So I guess in Orange is the New Black, you know, when they go to sleep at night, they're all in sort of bunk beds and kind of an open.
People call it a Quonset hut, or sometimes they call it like an army barracks or something like that. It's like this giant big open room, and there's individual pods or cubes is what they call them. And then in each cube, there's two or three bunk beds, and you have a bunkmate or a cube mate or whatever you want to call it. Private bathrooms, private shower, everything is private, and there was no violence when I was there. There was really nobody dangerous as far as I know.
Interesting. So what was the schedule like? I mean, and again, I find this interesting, not just for people who are like, oh my God, what's prison like? But compared to the Sea Org, what was the schedule like?
Night and day, because at the camp that I was at, there was no schedule. There were guys that slept the entire day and stayed up all night long, literally. So when I first got there, everybody had the dorms that we stayed in. So like there was like I was in B unit, the Bravo unit. There were 4 units, A, B, C, D, and they didn't lock the doors to the units at night. So you could go out into the rec yard and hang out at the track and literally stay out there all night long. The guards are out there and they're watching you, obviously. You could go in and out and you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can watch TV all day. You can go exercise all day. You can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. When I first got there, there were 2 inmates that they didn't escape. I mean, they call it an escape, but they literally just walked away because there's no way to it. They just walked down the road. So after those 2 guys left, then they started locking the doors at night. So at night, after I first got there, you had to be in your unit from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. After that, you can go outside and do pretty much whatever you want. They give everybody a job when I was there, unless you have a medical reason not to. So I worked in the kitchen for a couple of months when I was there, which was interesting. So basically, like, I worked for an hour each meal period, 3 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I worked an hour in the morning for breakfast, an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon for lunch, and then an hour in the evening for dinner. That was it. And I exercised whenever I wanted to. There really is no set schedule. So it's completely different from what the Sea Org is like. Every minute of every day in the Sea Org is accounted for. And the only similarity that I could say between the Sea Org and being in prison, the Sea Org has musters where they make sure that everybody is there when they're supposed to do. Prison has count to make sure that you're still there and that you didn't walk away. So that's really the only similarity.
Yeah. I have wondered how many Sea Org members don't quite realize that the only reason for musters is to make sure nobody has escaped.
They don't realize it. When I was in it, they don't
really seem to realize it.
And when I was in it, I didn't realize it either. But I mean, I know now, obviously. So yeah, so that's pretty much the only similarity that I can think of.
Incredible. So, so the food, how'd the food compare?
You were at PAC for a while, right? The food at PAC sucked when I was there. I heard it got better after I left, like in the early 2000s. I heard it got a little bit better, but when I was there, the food was terrible. The food the good thing about prison is that they have a commissary. You can buy your own food, and my prison was a privately owned prison, and it was one of the only prisons in the country that let inmates buy fresh fruits and vegetables. So most of the time, I didn't eat in the dining room unless they had like something really good, like when they had burgers, when they had fried chicken, and like the days like that. Other days the food was kind of shitty, but I bought all my food in the commissary, and I made food in my cube.
So you weren't restricted to only eating at certain periods of the day. You could eat when you wanted.
Literally eat and inside the dorms they had microwaves. They had like a little kitchen area where you could prepare your own food. They had refrigerators. They had ice machines, so you could pretty much do anything as long as you can do it with a microwave, a fridge, and some ice. Which you can do.
I mean, right there.
I found out.
Right there. Because it's one thing to talk about the quality of food in the Sea Org.
Yeah.
It's another thing to talk about penalizing people with regarding food or anything like that, or restricting a person's ability to eat. You're not allowed to eat in the Sea Org outside of the designated meal times without at least getting a report or having to fucking have an argument with somebody.
And then if you get busted or if you fuck up when you're in the Sea Org, you get put on rice and beans. In prison, there's no such thing. And if you have the option to do either the 3 meals a day in the dining hall, or you can go buy your food and make it yourself. You're not forced to do it at a certain time of day. You can go and eat whenever the hell you want, basically. And working in the kitchen, I got special privileges. I could go in and eat whenever I wanted because I had access to go to the back and like hang out with the cooks, essentially. So yeah, wow. No, it's way different than the Sea Org.
How about how you're treated by the guards? Are they treating you like, you piece of shit scum, know your place, or whatever?
No, the guards have to have some sort of a attitude, I guess, that they have towards inmates, but for the most part, they were perfectly fine. You know, some of them were a little bit meaner than the other ones, but if you don't mess with them, they don't mess with you. You know, it's sort of and if you do something wrong, obviously you're going to get in trouble for it. But if you just don't get caught, or if you just keep your nose clean, then you should be fine. But I had so many run-ins with PAC security, and like it's so crazy now that I think about it, because like back in the day, they used to come in and they used to search our rooms in main building, like our berthing where we would stay. They would just come in and they would toss the place. It's the same thing that they do in prison sometimes. They just come in and say, oh, well, there's a rumor that one of the inmates brought in cigarettes or brought in alcohol or something. They would go and they would toss their bed and try to find the contraband. This inmate had a cell phone. This inmate had a blah, blah, blah. You know, it's I guess that is another similarity.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you as a follow-up is as far as similarities between the way security treats Sea Org members and whether it was better or worse than the way prison guards treat prisoners. When I left the Sea Org, I've commented on this. It really took me a while to adjust to the concept of civil liberties and why they exist. Yes. Because to me, based on my experience in the Sea Org and based on everything L. Ron Hubbard says about only a criminal would ever object to being investigated,
right, of course.
I really had this mindset that you had to be guilty of something to object to a search and seizure of your property or whatever.
Right.
And this concept that, like, one of the biggest areas, looking back on it, of cognitive dissonance in the Sea Org is being told that you're part of the most ethical and valuable group of people in the world, nay, the universe.
Yeah.
And yet the things you are told about yourself and the way you are treated is as if you are a piece of shit scum prisoner, even in the best of times.
And you feel like that with Sea Org.
Right. So, like, yeah. Sorry if we might have a slight lag. I think I'm accidentally interrupting you. So, like, even a Sea Org member who's not in any trouble at all is going to have their birthing inspected and searched sometimes daily. And if not daily, it's only because they couldn't get around to it.
Right.
To see if you're doing anything or doing it, if you've any evidence that you've been doing anything you shouldn't have been doing, or if you are in possession of anything you should not be in possession of, a computer, a DVD player, some form of television. Yeah. What's an example of something else that might be confiscated in a birthing inspection in the Sea Org?
Like they had, I remember they used to catch the young ranch kids with like those little DVD, like those little portable DVD players. If you had, and then iPods started coming out like in the late 90s. They confiscated all the iPods, anything that had connection to Wi-Fi, like in the early 2000s when they started having Wi-Fi.
Some of the younger gentlemen might have a little lingerie catalog.
Yeah, exactly. No, but when I was in, they confiscated our music. Like if the music had swearing in it, or if there was a particular band or a musical group that ever said anything negative about Scientology or had a weird lyric that security didn't like, they would just take they would take the CDs, or they would take
like Tool.
Yeah, exactly. I remember there's so many kids that had Tool CDs, and security came in and just took every single one that they could possibly find.
For any of the listeners who don't know, there is a lyric in one of their songs that says "fuck L. Ron Hubbard and all of his clones."
Yeah, exactly. But the difference is that in prison, even the inmates had rights. So like even if they searched your cube and they said that they found something, you have recourse to fight whatever guard looked at your thing. In the Sea Org, there's no such recourse. It's you're guilty as sin, and there is no way to get out of it. There absolutely is no way to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be easier for a prisoner to walk off of that camp than it is for a Sea Org member at PAC to walk off of the base.
Easy. So like I said, when I compare the Sea Org versus being in prison is a piece of cake compared to what actually happened to me in the Sea Org. Sea Org was torture. When you go to federal prison, if you don't have a high school diploma, they make you do your GED and they make you get one. So when I first went in, I was like, well, technically I graduated high school, but it was a Scientology school, so it's not an accredited school. So they were like, do you want to get your GED while you're here? I said, sure, I might as well. I have the time. So I got my GED while I was in prison.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's already better than the Sea Org.
It's already better than the Sea Org. I actually got a proper, real education. And if I had more time, which thank God I didn't, but if I did, I could have signed up for college courses, an actual accredited college, like as an extension basically. And they have a computer lab, and they have all your books, and it's free for the inmates. The only thing you have to pay for are the books, which most people just have their families send the money in. But yeah, no, you can get you can get an education while you're in prison. It's really good for especially the younger inmates that went in for, minor drug possession. They got caught with a couple bags of marijuana at the border and they got like a 4-year sentence, which is insane. But for them, it's good because they can probably get a proper education and hopefully get a good job when they get out.
Incredible.